The time is just after 1:15, our top story this lunchtime. After nearly 4 decades on the streets of Northern Ireland, the army is preparing to end its longest ever campaign. And coming up, now who lives in a house like this? An exclusive look inside Russia's secret suburb.
And coming up later on BBC London News, flouting the smoking ban. A club owner says he's championing civil liberties. Westminster Council warns him, don't take us on. That and the latest on the weather in London at 1:30.
Now, when it comes to the playgrounds of the rich and famous, I'm sure you've heard of Monaco and Beverly Hills, but not many people will have heard of Wróblewskie. It's the secret suburb near Moscow where Russia's new super rich have built their homes. And our correspondent Rupert Wingfield-Hayes has been to see round it.
The forests outside Moscow have always hidden secrets. In Soviet times, walls like these hid military and nuclear facilities. But these huge green fences hide a new secret world. It's called Wróblewskaya, and it's the home of Russia's super rich.
So this is Wróblewskaya's main shopping street, but it's a shopping street with a difference because of the shops. Look, there's a Ferrari shop here, Ralph Lauren, Prada, not the sort of shops that your ordinary Russian is going to be able to afford to go to. There's a Bentley showroom. In fact, there aren't any ordinary shops here at all. There are only very, very expensive, very exclusive stores.
"18-year-old Svetlana is the daughter of a Russian billionaire, and she's agreed to take us home. This is the first time a foreign television crew has ever been allowed into this oligarch's village. More exclusive than Beverly Hills, cameras aren't welcome here. Russian billionaires like their privacy.
So this is your house?
Yeah,
This Japanese house is your house?
Yeah.
And you particularly like Japanese style?
I love it.
Don't be fooled. This is only the garden shed.
How big is this house?
It's about 3,000 square meters.
3,000 square meters. My goodness.
This place, the security is amazing, not like in other places in Russia. I think all wealthy people try to buy some, some land or a house in there.
But not everyone here is rich. Old Mrs. Rima has lived in Wróblewskaya since Stalin's time. Now the grandmother and her one-room hovel are an unwanted eyesore. They'd like to get me off this land, she tells me, and tear down my house. These rich people drive past in their fancy cars. They despise poor people like me. They occupy the same village, but they live in different worlds. Wróblewskaya is a microcosm of Russia. 15 years after the collapse of communism, it's now one of the most unequal societies on earth. Rupert Wingfield-Hayes, BBC News in Moscow.
Back home now, and 5 boys aged between 12 and 14 have gone on trial at the Old Bailey, accused of killing a 67-year-old man who was playing cricket. The jury has been hearing how Ernest Norton was with his 17-year-old son when a mob of youngsters started pelting them with sticks and stones. Mr. Norton suffered a heart attack and died. All 5 boys deny manslaughter and violent disorder. Daniela Relf is at the Old Bailey for us. It's not often that you get children as young as this on trial at the Old Bailey, is it?
That's right, and it's been a highly unusual scene inside Court 15 here. Because of their age, it's been decided to make the courtroom experience less intimidating for them. So the judge isn't wearing a wig or his robes, neither are any of the barristers. And the 5 defendants themselves are in the dock, sitting behind a glass screen here at the Old Bailey, but they are not with prison officers or security guards, they are with their parents. They've been allowed to have either their mother or their father sitting alongside them in the courtroom. So highly unusual, but very serious charges that all 5 face here of manslaughter. Opening their case, the prosecution say that the 5 were part of a gang found to be spitting, throwing pieces of rock, stones and woods at Ernest Norton that day in February last year. He was somebody the court heard who had a history of heart problems, and the prosecution say that the stress of the attack that day by these boys caused him to collapse and die of a heart attack at the scene. And the prosecutor has also warned the jury that even though the youngest of the defendants was 10 at the time, youth should be no defence in this case.
Daniela, thank you very much. Now, how much more would you be prepared to fork out for greener energy? Well, from today, customers with British Gas can pay an extra £84 a year for what it says is the greenest energy tariff on the market. John Moylan's been investigating the claim.
What exactly is green energy? Power from clean sources such as wind farms? Or traditional dirty power where the carbon emitted is cancelled out by, say, planting trees? Or is it normal power where your cash is used to pay for renewable energy sources? Well, according to British Gas, it's all 3. Now the company, which was criticised over previous green deals, says it's launched the most environmentally sound tariff around.
So if you sign up for this product, then in effect the carbon emissions associated with your gas and electricity consumption will be 0. You'll be contributing to the development of future generation technologies, and you will be ensuring that more renewable facilities get built.
But green energy comes at a price. Anybody signing up for this new British Gas scheme will pay an extra £84 a year. Now, when there are so many other demands on our cash these days, how much are we prepared to pay to go green? Would you be prepared to pay more to get green energy?
Actually, I'm trying to pay less with my bills, not more.
Yeah, I think I would. I mean, if it's 84 quid a year, that's going to be, what, about 7 quid a month or something, so it's not a lot, is it?
I'd love to be able to do that, but on a limited pension, it's very difficult.
Yes, I would be willing to pay 84. I think if they've probably positioned that very cleverly. To go over the £100 mark suddenly makes a big difference.
Lots of companies claim to offer green power, but there's no industry-wide agreement on what green energy is.
At the moment, it's quite difficult for consumers to be able to sort of compare the green tariffs on offer, and also to work out whether the claims that the suppliers are making are actually true. And so I think an accreditation scheme on green tariffs will provide that third-party verification.
That scheme will be available within a year and should increase confidence if you want to go green. John Moylan, BBC News.
A Royal Marine killed while taking part in a special mission to root out Taliban insurgents in southern Afghanistan has been named as Lance Corporal Michael Jones. He is the 4th British serviceman to die in Afghanistan in the past few days. Half of the homes in Gloucestershire that have been without water for more than a week have now been reconnected, but Severn Trent Water says it is still not safe to drink. Meanwhile, laboratory tests carried out on the floodwaters to see just how dangerous they were have been completed. Here's Rajesh Merchandani with the results.
He's not so worried about the supply of water anymore. Houses in this part of Gloucester flooded when the sewers burst.
You can see we've stripped the room out.
Now they're drying out the walls and thinking about what's been left behind.
The floodwater obviously was sewerage. We don't know what's in there and what has been washed down from different things. What they're going to do about it? Who's going to clean it all up? Obviously it soaks into the bricks as well. How far do you go? And what can you do?
So these are not simply flood-damaged possessions, they're contaminated too. But do these waste disposal experts know exactly what bacteria they're dealing with?
We will have an E. coli contamination, standard sewage contamination. It'll have been diluted by the water, but at the same time, it's not acceptable to have any contamination in a dwelling house.
It all seems a bit inexact, so we got a sample of floodwater and we sent it to a lab on Merseyside, where they analysed it and found very high levels of bacteria.
There is faecal contamination in the water, but that's expected with it being floodwater. It will have picked it up from the drains, from the overflow of the drains, river water, from soil. There's E. coli present in soil, there's E. coli present in sewage, obviously.
And more tests could show there's listeria too. Bugs we found in the floodwater can cause things like diarrhoea, vomiting, nausea, nasty stomach infections. But the health authority here have asked us to point out that you're only at risk of getting ill if you ingest the bug. Health agencies say there's been no rise in related illnesses and that most people are following the public health advice about floodwaters. Yet it's one more thing to worry about at the worst possible time. Rajesh Merchandani, BBC News in Gloucester.
Cricket now, and England have lost the second Test match against India. They won by 7 wickets to go 1-0 up in the 3-match series. Andy Swiss reports.
On the field. If Michael Vaughan didn't look exactly thrilled, you could hardly blame him. Only rain could save England. Instead, they got glorious sunshine and a not-so-glorious defeat. A meagre target of 73 was never going to ruffle India, and it didn't. These two sides haven't exactly got on in this match. England's bizarre tactic of dropping jelly beans on the pitch has raised a few eyebrows, but no amount of discarded confectionery could save them today. They did at least regain some pride, thanks to Chris Tremlett. First, he outpaced both Jaffa and the cameraman to give England something to cheer about, and there were soon 2 more reasons, as both Kartik and Tendulkar followed. It was, though, too little, far too late. The luck was with India. It's a full Yorker, and they duly wrapped up an emphatic victory. After all the bad blood of the first 4 days, it was handshakes all round at the end. But come the final test next week, there's unlikely to be too much love lost. Andy Swiss, BBC News.
Let's get the latest weather now, and Thomas has some very good news for us all.
I certainly have, Sophie. We've been promising sunshine, and that's exactly what most of us are getting this afternoon. And indeed, the next few days will bring some warm weather, especially across southern parts of the British Isles. So some of us will be heading off, of course, to the beaches. The only sign of poorer weather conditions is towards the northwest of the British Isles here, across parts of Scotland. Here it's not so sunny, and we're seeing some outbreaks of rain. But let's start with the good news, first of all, across southern parts of the British Isles, where, of course, we're seeing a lot of warm weather. Even on the coastline itself, temperatures getting up to around about 21 degrees. So that's 70 degrees Fahrenheit. The water temperature is still a little bit on the low side, around about 15 or 16 degrees Celsius. But of course, it's warm in the sunshine in the beach itself, and the same goes for most of Wales as well. So some lovely weather around today and indeed tomorrow as well. And one thing to bear in mind is, of course, the UV levels, the strength of the sunshine. We're not used to the sun this summer, so if you're out and about on the beaches, remember, sunscreen, that's certainly a factor to consider. But let's have a look at the rest of the UK then for this afternoon. Temperatures will peak at around about 21 or 2 across the Midlands and a rainy 16 degrees across the Hebrides. Now, as we get into the evening hours, the weather front across the Hebrides will sink southwards and bring some rain towards Scotland and a little bit of rain towards Northern Ireland too, and perhaps Cumbria as well. But for the rest of us across the south of the UK here, we're going to see more clear skies. Now, tonight will be another chilly night, so tomorrow morning fairly chilly as well. Temperatures of around about 7, 8, 9 degrees first thing. By the time we get to around rush hour 8 or 9, more like 13. Blue skies for most of us. But for Northern Ireland, some changes here. Cloudier conditions, spots of rain too, 13 degrees or 14 Celsius. Also bits of rain across the central lowlands and the southern uplands. But you can see to the north of this weather front, cooler air, but some sunny spells too. And this dreary weather will try to sink southwards, but because we've got high pressure here, it can't really drift southwards. So again, tomorrow, we're expecting right from the word go sunny skies across the Midlands and the southeast of the country as well. So here's our weather front, the troublemaker that spoils the weather in the north. It tries to sink southwards. It might bring spots of rain towards places like Newcastle and Liverpool, but for most of the Midlands and Wales, we'll see temperatures getting up to around about 24 degrees Celsius. Now, how about Thursday? It looks as though we are going to see variable amounts of sunshine, possibly a shower or two across central parts of the British Isles. To the north, some outbreaks of rain, but in London, temperatures reaching up to 25 degrees. And as we head into the weekend in the southeast of the country, temperatures could well reach the high 20s. How about that, Sophie?
Wonderful. Thank you very much. At 1:30, a reminder of our top story. The British Army's longest ever campaign, Operation Banner in Northern Ireland, is about to come to an end. And still to come on News 24 in the next half hour, a roundup of all the business news and all the day's sport, including, is he the right man for the job? Questions over Manchester City's new boss from a human rights group. But that's all from the 1 o'clock news this lunchtime, so it's goodbye from me. And on BBC One, we now join the BBC's news teams where you are. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon and welcome to BBC London News. 3,000 of London's black cabs are going green. They're going to be given the option of using biofuels rather than conventional diesel in an effort to help the environment. But BBC London has learned that the company which sells the cabs is refusing to back the scheme. Andrew Winstanley reports.
A new paint job, a new biofuel. London's cabbies were trying to ditch their dirty cousin's image.
You can do this.
So your hands would be dirty before then?
Well, yeah, it'd be speckled.
Yeah.
They ain't now. In your own head, it's got to make you feel good. I mean, other cab drivers, if they don't want to put it in, they've got to be, you know, it's got to be something wrong with them. Because it'll be there for them. Peace of mind tells you you've got to stick this in.
If it's green, Mayor Ken wants to be seen, and the new fuel will make carbon savings of around 8%. For drivers, it's cheaper too. The only issue, there's only one refuelling station in the whole of London.
We're not saying that all our cabs are always using it. We are, however, saying that all our cabs are carbon neutral. Every journey that anybody takes in a radio taxi cab is a carbon neutral journey. But what we're doing is encouraging drivers to use this fuel, and given that they save almost 10% on their fuel, it seems like something that they would want to do.
Radio taxis have 3,000 member drivers who have signed up to use biofuels, about 10% of the total black cab fleet. Still, it could take the pollution equivalent of 170 cars off the road a year. As this is such a green initiative, you'd imagine everyone involved would be fully supportive. But actually the company that sold these drivers the cabs, Mann and Overton, has decided that because they're using such a high level of biofuel, some 30% in this mix, they're not sure what the effect on the engines will be. And as a result, they have withdrawn the fuel warranties on all of these vehicles. Mann and Overton are the engines for LTI taxis, who told us, we use the Ford Duratorque engine and the VM Motori engines. Both manufacturers specify that only a maximum mixture of 5% biofuel can be used in their engines and will only provide a warranty to LTI for a maximum 5% mix.
We shall have to have a word with them and try and dissuade them of this reactionary attitude. I mean, because they don't actually want to find that they've offended City Hall, I suspect, and they wouldn't want to hear me denouncing them in unfriendly terms. But we'll have a chat to them, don't worry.
The new fuel is made of oilseed rape and sunflower. Interesting enough, but the next stage could see them switching to algae, a far cry from the old four-star. Andrew Winstanley, BBC London News.
Well, Jenny Jones is a member of the Green Party in the London Assembly and joins me now. Good afternoon. Are biofuels always a good thing environmentally?
Well, of course they're not. There's good and bad. I mean, we've just heard of a good example that they're going to use in these taxis. But in fact, there's lots of bad biofuels because they can destroy rainforests, they can take land from food production, or they can just be more polluting.
Even if these cabs do run on biodiesel, the benefits aren't that great. I looked into this. The press release on them this morning says the E3 fuel being used cuts CO2 emissions by 10% at best. That's hardly fantastic, is it? Is it really worth it?
I think it is worth it because there is no magic bullet to this problem of climate change. If we're going to reduce carbon emissions, we've got to use lots of smaller measures and accept that we're going to have to think very broadly about which measures to take.
I was going to say, because is there one solution to all this? Is there a miracle here that we just haven't discovered, or is it a matter of lots of different bits? Is that the way?
Well, Al Gore says there is no magic bullet to mop up on climate change. There's only silver buckshot. And so that's what we have to think about. Lots of smaller measures.
Nicely put. Jenny Jones, thanks very much for joining us. Now, it's a month since the ban on smoking in enclosed public places, and all that time, one restaurant and nightclub in London has been allowing customers to light up at its tables. Tom Edwards was there this morning.
We're in the Abracadabra bar and restaurant just off Piccadilly, and here they're actually allowing smoking. They think the smoking ban is an infringement of their civil liberties. Let's speak to the owner of Abracadabra, Dave West.
Hi.
Dave, I can see you're smoking here now. Why are you breaking the law? Is this just a publicity stunt?
No, it's certainly not a publicity stunt, and first of all, the law is not confirmed until it's been challenged. This is an infringement of my civil liberties and human rights, and that's how we're going to fight it.
You say it's an infringement of your civil liberties. What about the civil liberties of your staff and the passive smoking?
Well, certainly, first of all, they've all signed a disclaimer. Most of them actually smoke, but those that don't have signed a disclaimer. We're also concerned with the safety, health and safety of our staff, so we're going to go for it.
So they haven't objected to smoking carrying on in here, is that what you're saying?
No, not at all.
And what about how far you will go? How far are you willing to push this? Are you willing to go to court to take fines from Westminster Council?
Well, the thing is, if we lose in the High Court, it will go to the Court of Appeal. then it will go to the House of Lords, and then finally it will go to the European Parliament. That's actually allowing people to smoke in the Parliament. So we certainly think we will win there.
OK, Dave, thanks very much. Well, we have spoken to Westminster Council. They've given us a statement, and they say anyone who breaches this ban can expect to hear from us in due course.
Tom Edwards reporting. Hundreds of allotment holders could be about to lose their cherished plots. Redbridge Council will decide tonight whether to sell them off, raising £25 million. The people renting the plots say the council's going back on its commitment to improve the health of its residents. Carl Mercer was there earlier.
Now, there's been an allotment here at Goodmays Lane in Ilford for something close to 100 years, and something like 100 people actually come here on a daily basis to tend their plots. But maybe not for much longer, because the local council wants to sell off this and for other allotments to raise money for leisure services, something that Paul Dye, you're not happy about. You're the chairman of the local allotments association.
I am, yes, and I'm certainly not happy. In fact, I would say I'm hopping mad. I'm not normally a violent person, but what's happening is this. The council is proposing to relocate all these allotments on the other side of railings over there, which is a playing field. It's an extension of the local park.
But what they're saying is not enough people come out and use allotments, so it actually makes sense for the borough as a whole to raise money, sell off some of this land, put you all in plots that are actually full.
Well, that's not really an accurate account of the situation. We're 90% of our site is used. We are at the moment clearing some of it to make more plots available, and we do have a waiting list.
But they're saying to you, even if they do have to move you, and they're saying, look, it's a tough call, we don't really want to push people out, but we've got to raise money, that they'll find you another plot to go to.
Well, that sounds like crocodile tears. I mean, the fact is you don't just take over what was a playing field and expect to start producing vegetables overnight. It's just not possible. You need quality of soil. And some of these gardeners have taken 20, 30, even 40 years to get the ground in a condition to grow crops for their families.
All right, Paul, we'll have to leave it there. I know you're going to the Cabinet meeting tonight, which is going to decide on this to make your points there. And as I said, Redbridge Council say they need to sell off this land, they need to raise money, some of which will be put back into allotments, some of which will go to improving leisure facilities across the rest of the borough.
Carl Mercer in Ilford. Now, it's 60 years since India became independent from Britain, and the driving force behind that change was Mahatma Gandhi. Now, a new film focuses on the personal side of Gandhi's life, and the star of the film has been talking to Brenda Emanis.
I am good for nothing, Gandhi's son. I have this house because of my father. I failed in my exams with my father's money.
If he were around today, Harilal Gandhi would be tabloid fodder. The eldest son of a world-famous leader who, burdened by his legacy, turns to drink, women and fraud. Gandhi, my father, reveals this tragic tale.
This was one area of Gandhi where there was a complete blackout, as if this is one subject we were not supposed to talk or were not supposed to put it in the public domain. So nobody knew about it. Strangely, not many people even know that he had 4 children, because I think he reached a stage of being a saint almost, where when you get into a saint, it looks like as if they don't have a family.
It's always about your principles. What about the children?
We are parents to all the children here.
These are 2 very strong individuals who are face to face, who happen to be father and son, and both refusing to compromise. And so they kind of grow apart. And so in that sense, it is very tragic, but yet something that is very relevant to every family and every relationship even today.
Harilal at one stage converts to Islam and constantly battles for his father's attention.
Harilal has sold his soul to the highest bidder and his flesh to the cheapest pleasure.
Later descendants of the world leader have embraced their legacy more positively. Tushar Gandhi is Mahatma Gandhi's great-grandson.
My grandmother told me when I was a kid, she told me that I was like a sapling which had taken root under the shadow of a great tree. And she said, you know, no matter what you do, you will always be in its shadow. And she said, it's up to you whether you want to be stunted or you want to thrive under that shadow. And I decided that I was going to thrive.
The film is released this Friday. Brenda Emanis, BBC London News.
Now, Peter Kilcroft with the weather. And will the summer stay with us, Peter?
That's an easy one to answer, Mike. Yes, essentially. Today, well, the lunchtime weather report showing that we haven't got as much cloud as we had yesterday. Temperatures are a few degrees up on yesterday's. I think we're going to peak at about 22 or 23 Celsius. Plenty more sunshine to come through the afternoon and into the early part of the evening. And what cloud we have got will disappear this evening, and we're going to have clear skies for much of the night. So I think it's going to be chilly in the Chilterns again tonight. The temperature somewhere like High Wycombe getting down to 8 Celsius, which is 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Tomorrow, a sunny start to another sunny day. A very, very light south-southwesterly wind might bring us a bit of cloud in the afternoon, but nevertheless, temperatures up to 23 or 24, so that's the mid-70s Fahrenheit. Weak weather front on Thursday might bring us a shower, Luton perhaps, but the rest of us staying dry. Not quite so warm for the end of the week, but the blue skies back with us then, Mike.
Thank you, Peter. That's it for now. Asad Ahmad will be here on BBC One at 6:30. Until then, goodbye for now.
Next, it's been a nightmare for Pepper recently, and her ordeal isn't over yet. Then, after Neighbours, odd text messages at the doctors, and there are ward closures at All Saints. Drama this afternoon on BBC One.
It's a big responsibility forecasting the weather for BBC London.
I speak to my listeners every morning on BBC London 94.9, so I know how the weather can affect their lives.
I've seen my first tornado in London.
We have weather every 15 minutes on my breakfast show, helping set you up for the day.
London's weather mostly dry today.
No matter how you want your forecast, on TV, on radio or online, we've got it covered.
I brought you something in, Mariko. I've plated you up a Sunday lunch. There was some good spare.
It's Wednesday.
Yeah, well, it's a shame to waste it. Now, I wouldn't trust the sprouts, but everything else is fine.
There's no escaping the visit. Sunday at 9 on BBC Three.
Controversial star of reality TV, Jade Goody tells Piers Morgan about her very public fall from grace. You can't fire me, I'm famous, tonight at 10:35 on BBC One.
Ultimate outdoors. And follow Griff Rhys-Jones to the Lake District.
Who could fail to be inspired by it? It's simply divine.
Mountain, part of the Ultimate Outdoors season, Sunday at 9 on BBC One.
Can't get enough of CBeebies? Then here's a new way to fire your little one's imagination with their favourite shows and more. Now on the radio. CBeebies on BBC 7.
I've been trying to save the world one person at a time, but I'm meant for something bigger.
It was like someone was talking to me, except it was in my head.
You have no idea what I'm capable of. You think you can bathe the future, take one without me in it.
I have to stop it.
Heroes continues tomorrow at 9 on BBC Two.
There are some really rude bits from our new series of grown-ups we just can't show you. Like that. Ugh, oh, that's a bit near the knuckle. Go on, my son. That's it, fella. Brand spanking new comedy, strictly for the grown-ups. Sunday at 10 on BBC Three.
The respite care ward at All Saints faces closure. It's not a popular decision. That's in half an hour here on BBC One after our Tuesday appointment at the Mill.